perhaps we have an erroneous idea of play, and that's one of the reasons why we consider it children's, in the realm of children, and that's only for children. And when you're an adult, play is taking the time of being practical and doing useful things in the world. That brings up a lot of stuff for me. The way that my Tantra community defines play is essentially, rather than seeing like, oh my goodness, something is being taken away from me, everything is being taken away from me when things shift or new things appear in our life, it's the essence of curiosity. Play is the openness, the receptivity to newness. The curiosity of like, oh, well, this is different. What delights is this gonna bring into my life now? Like the Rumi poem, the guest house, I absolutely adore that. It talks about how every new guest that comes into your life every morning, every day, every moment, it may want to sweep your house clean of its furniture, yet invite each guest in honorably, because it might be making room for new delights for you. And this concept is the essence of what play is all about. I was reflecting on this a lot yesterday. So I went for a long walk in the snow. My walks don't tend to just be, I was on a linear, just a straight path, but I go off of the path and I went up a little hill and I found this really beautiful grove of trees and these amazing vines that were hanging, and I was like, oh, I wonder if I can swing on those vines. And so I went up and I was kind of checking them to see if they would hold my whole weight, and they did. So I sat on one vine and I was swinging on it, and I was holding the other ones, and I was upside down. And this is, for me, is what play is about. It's not, I'm getting really effervescent with it. And sometimes play is like that, really effervescent, like run around and giggle, and that's a beautiful form of play as well. But play is not necessarily that. Play is really staying open. You know, in that moment, I was walking backward, I was walking sideways, and then all of a sudden I saw this kind of shoot off to the side of the trail that went up, and it looked like there were animal tracks in the snow up there, and I was like, oh, that looks enticing, I'm gonna go see that. And so I was just walking up the hill, and then I saw another thing, and I was following that, and then I saw the vines, and when I got on the vines, I just let my body, you know, start moving in delicious ways, and being upside down and feeling the snow, and touching the bark and the moss with my tongue, and it makes me feel so alive, that openness to that curiosity of, ooh, this is a new delight, what could this be about? And when I got home, I really started reflecting on how when this starts to apply to food and apply to my diet, there's the tendency to think like, oh, it's being taken away from me. Like, what if my body, what if I start to really, really deeply listen to my body, and it tells me that it never ever wants to eat cake again, or it tells me that it never ever wants to eat avocado again. And those things are hard because there's a really strong attachment, this really strong, we have such a tendency to attach to things that we like and want more of them. And that seems to be a relatively natural human thing. And this new lens, this new paradigm of play, bringing this in, I was reflecting like, oh, rather than thinking that really tuning into my body, and if it tells me that it doesn't want certain things, rather than seeing that as like, oh, it's taking that away from me, I could refocus and look at it as, oh, what new delights might that bring in if I actually really stop eating these things that my body is not receptive to, and that it's telling me it doesn't want, and that it wants a lot less food than maybe I've been eating. What new delights could that bring in? And this seems to have something to do also with emotions. Our organs, right, are very, very intertwined, intimate relationship with emotions. I mean, they talk about this in pretty much all of the ancient traditions, Ayurveda and Chinese medicine, and how I was reading a little bit in a body mind centering book yesterday, because as I'm on this path, I've decided to also want to get to know my organs better. Particularly at this moment, I'm focusing on my digestive organs. And it was saying that each organ, and this is different for every person, but the tendency is that certain organs are related more to certain emotions, just like they talk about in Chinese medicine as well. But this was talking about how each organ can feel the polarity of both ends, so joy and anger. I don't remember the other examples right now, or maybe it was joy and grief. But that if you're not able to feel the full spectrum of that polarity and those emotions, that there's something also missing in terms of the overall vitality of your organ. And that was fascinating to me, in this paradigm of play, because we tend to restrict, right? We don't want to feel, we push away the negative emotions, even calling them negative emotions has the tendency of, I want to push that away, I don't want to feel that, I want to ignore that, I want to suppress that. Going back to the hard to swallow that I talked about in my video yesterday, that we force ourselves not to feel those things, we suppress them. And this idea of getting curious about what new delight could this bring in if I let myself fully be furious and rage and scream and hit pillows and scream at the top of my lungs. What new delight might that bring in? If I allow myself to grieve the sorrow so deeply that my lungs just get all of it out, my sinuses get all of it out, what new delight might that bring in if I allow myself to feel the full spectrum? And then on the other spectrum, a lot of us restrict how much joy we give ourselves permission to feel. What would it feel like to take the bounds off of the joy and just feel totally in my bliss of joy? It's a curiosity. It's an experiment. It's all an experiment. So I would just encourage you to reflect on what you feel like is being taken away from you when you have fear around different things in your life, around shifting your habits, and reflect on what possible delights might be hiding behind that. Have a beautiful day.